Chapter 54, the Endocrine System. Here in Figure 47-1 from the text, we show the location of the major endocrine glands. The parathyroid glands lie in the posterior surface of the thyroid gland. The endocrine system has many functions. It has a role in reproductive and central nervous system development in the fetus, stimulating growth and development during childhood and adolescence, sexual reproduction, maintaining homeostasis, and responding to emergency demands, to just name a few. Endocrine hormones exert their effects by recognizing their target tissues and attaching to receptor sites in a lock and key type of mechanism. They control the endocrine activity by stimulating or inhibiting hormone synthesis and secretion, which creates both positive and negative feedbacks. Nervous system activity directly affects some endocrine glands. Pain, fear, sexual excitement, and stressors can stimulate the nervous system to control hormone secretion. The CNS senses stress, and the sympathetic nervous system secretes catecholamines to stimulate your heart and lung function, help you respond to that danger. The pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus via nerve tracts. It's also responsible for antidiuretic hormone, or ADH. It has a major role in regulating fluid volume, and it's also a patent vasoconstrictor. The pineal gland, located within the brain, is composed of photoreceptive cells, and its primary function is to secrete melatonin and help with sleep. The thyroid gland has several hormones at play. Thyroxine, or T4, accounts for 90% of the hormone made by the thyroid, while T3 is 20% of the circulating thyroid hormone and is more potent of the greater metabolic effects than the T4. This is also where calcitonin is produced. On the other hand, the adrenal glands are centered around the adrenal medulla and are responsible for catecholamines like epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine, along with neurotransmitters that are an essential part of the sympathetic nervous system's fight-or-flight response. The adrenal glands from the adrenal cortex are responsible for cortisol, an anti-inflammatory with an effect on glucose metabolism. You also have aldosterone, which influences fluid and electrolyte balance, as well as other adrenal androgens. The cortisol produced in the adrenal glands regulates blood glucose concentration by stimulating hepatic glucose formation. It also decreases inflammatory response by stabilizing membranes of cellular lysomes and preventing increased capillary permeability. Also, stress, burns, infection, fever, acute anxiety, and hypoglycemia also increase these levels. Aldosterone plays a major part in maintaining extracellular fluid volume and acts on the renal tube to promote renal reabsorption of sodium and the excretion of potassium and hydrogen ions. Adrenal androgens are converted into sex steroids in the peripheral tissues. This would account for testosterone in men and estrogen in women. Here in Figure 47-9, we have the adrenal gland that's composed of the adrenal cortex along with the adrenal medulla. A major organ within the endocrine system is the pancreas. It has exocrine and endocrine functions, along with the islets of Langerhans that have 4 types of hormone-secreting cells. Glucagon, released by the pancreas, works to increase blood glucose by stimulating glycogenesis, glyconeogenesis, and ketogenesis. On the other hand, insulin is the main regulator of metabolism and is storage of ingested carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. It helps facilitate glucose transport into cells, the transport of amino acids across muscle membranes, and the synthesis of amino acids into proteins within the peripheral nerves. Insulin has increased blood glucose level. It is a major stimulus for insulin synthesis and secretion. Low blood glucose levels, glucagon, somatostatin, hypokalemia, and catecholamines usually inhibits insulin secretion. Next would be Addison's versus Cushing's disease. In the case of Addison's, we are low in the adrenal cortisol hormones, meaning we need to add some, where on the other hand, Cushing's is way too much of the adrenal and cortisol hormones. And finally, thyroid. Hypo versus hyperthyroid is something that does come up a lot in NCLEX. In the case of hypothyroid, everything is slow. They're gaining weight, they're constantly cold. Versus with hyperthyroid, they're running way too fast. They're full of energy, they're losing weight, they're hot. And, hypo is slow, cold. Hyper is fast and hot. But anyway, that's all we've got for this chapter. Let's dive into diabetes.